Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Sigh of Relief. I'm your host, Tony, and joining me is my amazing co-host, Kaya. Kaya, say what's up.
Hello.
Today we have a great show lined up for you guys. It's going to be a really great show. We're going to talk about the upcoming TikTok deadline. A father that was arrested for leaving his kids at McDonald's with Grimace, and also the rising cost of the American dream, along with some returning NASA astronauts that have returned to Earth. So, with that being said,
Finally.
Kaya, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's hump day, so we're halfway
Thank
through the
goodness.
week, so I can't complain. Cannot complain. 2 more days until the weekend.
2 more days until the weekend goes by in 30 minutes, but
Right, it's gonna go
nonetheless.
by extremely fast. Hopefully, it's not raining. I think it was raining today when I went outside, so hopefully, it's not raining this weekend, so I can actually go outside and enjoy some good weather. What about
Well,
you? What do you have planned?
it's Texas, so I mean the odds are definitely in your favor.
Yeah.
Nothing, just
Mhm,
decorating,
mhm.
building stuff, being Barbara the
Mhm.
Builder,
Okay.
getting my place together. Nothing
Okay, that's what's up.
nothing too crazy.
You got a toolbox, right? You got tools.
I got tools. I got a power
Okay.
drill, a big
Oh,
power
okay.
drill, a
Okay, you
hammer.
fancy. Okay.
I'm feeling myself.
So your neighbors have to hear you over there banging all weekend, putting stuff together.
That's okay. They upstairs having a get together right now, so it's fine.
Okay. Well, you may have to go upstairs and join them after the show.
No,
All right.
I'm a
All right.
pass.
Cool. Cool. So before we jump into some of the stories, I saw one story that it's part of today's show, but at the same time, it's not an official story. I know you love to travel. You told us about your travels to South Africa last year for your birthday, so I thought this would be a good opener. So recently, a flight from New York City to Tokyo, Japan, was diverted back to United States after basically a 12-hour flight to Tokyo, Japan. The flight was literally 2 hours from Japan,
It was
and
close. Yeah.
yeah, it was really close. It was 2 hours from Japan. And I guess the crew noticed and the pilot noticed that the plane was having maintenance issues. And so that plane ended up coming all the way back to the United States, bypassing the west coast of the US and coming all the way back to Texas. And I was reading some of the stories online, and the folks were really pissed about their experience on going to Japan, not landing, and coming back to the United States. Did you hear about this story?
I didn't, shockingly. I did not. Was this a do you know if it left from Houston? Because I think Houston has the direct flights to Haneda and somewhere else.
No, so it left from New York City. I think JFK, or I think
Oh, okay.
JFK is in New York. So yeah, I think it left from New York.
Okay. So it left from New York. Then it got 2 hours from being in Japan and went back
Correct.
to Texas.
Right. So it went from New York, 2 hours
That's
off the coast
interesting.
of Japan, and then the crew noticed some issues, and they came all the way back to the United States.
So they couldn't get the maintenance done in Japan. Why didn't they just finish up the route?
I would have well, I'm pretty sure some laws or some regulation prevented them from doing that.
Hmm.
That's the only
Okay.
only thing that I can possibly think of. But to sit on a plane for what,
Whew,
12
yeah,
hours to get there, another
yeah.
12 hours to get back, roughly 12,
Hmm.
that's 24 hours. And I can only imagine the longest flight I've been on was I think about 13 or 14 hours. I can't imagine doing close to
Whew,
24 hours. Like my knees will
yeah.
probably be so swollen.
Yes, to the people in the back of the plane, our prayers are with you.
Right, right. Yeah,
Our
definitely, definitely.
economy flyers, because I would have been in
Mhm.
the back of the plane too.
Right,
But
right.
I wonder. My wonder is why didn't they just finish out the route? Like, yeah, maybe it was policy related, FAA related, or maybe they
Right.
just didn't have the maintenance staff
Hmm. Right.
in
Yeah, and
Japan
that's
to
that's
do
that's a good
it.
point.
But
That's a good
I,
point.
I, I don't know. Assuming that if it was detrimental enough, they wouldn't have flown back.
Right.
Um, so did they? Did this just happen this week, or is this old?
Yeah, I think
A
it
little older.
happened. So I think it happened about 2 or 3 days ago. And
Oh,
so
okay.
it's still current enough where if you probably
It's
go
fresh.
on like social media, you can see people who probably have first class tickets who spent
Hmm.
that's probably what a $5,000 flight,
No more,
3,000 more. Oh yeah,
more.
they're going to be complaining, and these airlines, they're not
Yep.
going to give you all your money back. They're probably going to give you a hotel, if that, and refund your ticket. So your
And
needs
that
are
was
just
my
going to be
question.
right.
That was my question of how new it was, and if they had offered um some type of refunds, or
Mhm.
did they get to go to Japan, or did they go
I
on?
mean, would you want to go to Japan after 24 hours
Yeah,
of flying back and forth? Oh no, I'm not going
yeah,
to
I
Japan.
do. I
I'm
do.
canceling my flight and I'm going home. I'm
What
not going
about
to Japan.
that wasted PTO? Because they done already flew 12 hours. That's a day of
Nah,
PTO at least.
nah. Well, that I'm gonna tell my
No.
boss I was sick, and I'm not using no PTO. I was sick, so and I am sick. I'm sick of
No.
flying. So yeah, I am not using
I still
PTO.
want my trip. That's a
No,
good
no.
question too, because I think those flights are obviously prepped for, the volume that they have. So I wonder if they
Mhm.
even had enough food, enough drinks. Like 12 hours,
That's
a
one thing I read online that people were complaining about spending, you know, thousands of dollars on a flight and getting a $15 meal in return. So,
yeah.
I mean, it sucks. I would have went back to work after probably 2 days of resting, and my coworkers would have been asking me how was Japan. I would have said, "Hey, I saw Japan through the window. And Japan wasn't great, and now I'm back at work." So
I don't know. Me, I'm like 12 hours, that's a long time to dedicate to have
that is,
nothing to show for it. Like I need to be able to show something. Even if I go for a day,
yeah,
like I need
you
to
got
taste
something to show.
some
You got, you got, you got,
nigiri.
you got your what you call it, your war wounds, your battle scars of sitting in that airplane seat for 24 hours.
Your back
You have your
hurting.
stories to tell. So yeah, hopefully they were compensated for not
Yes, hopefully
only
so.
the ticket they paid for, but some additional perks as well. Because I want a flight. I want 2 flights to Japan now. So
Yeah.
I want 2 flights.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I want
Quick
a flight to Japan
question.
on a different carrier. I don't even want to ride the same carrier that I
Well,
rode originally.
I don't know if that's gonna happen, but
Right.
have you flown first class before?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I was gonna say if I was flying first class, I've only flown first class once. But
Okay.
if I was flying first class, I don't even think I would be mad.
Mhm,
The seats are so good, you're so
mhm.
comfortable. I think I
Yeah.
would have been happy to get a little extra time in
Right.
first
Right.
class.
Right. So,
So I don't
well,
know. Maybe
we'll
the
see.
20 people in the front didn't care, but I'm sure the rest of the
Mhm.
plane did.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, when I took my international flight, which was probably the longest flight I've taken, I did walk past the first class what cabin or whatever, and
Yeah.
they were sitting good. They had little I don't know what to call them, but they were like recliners, like some
Yep.
type of bed that you just lay in. And I kept
Yeah.
smelling the food they were eating. They weren't eating what I was eating. They were eating
Nope.
something a lot better than what I was eating, and I kept smelling it. So they had me thinking like, yo, I need to fly first class. But when you look at the flights, some of those flights are
Expensive.
like double. Yeah, they're double what it is to ride in coach or whatever or economy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
definitely, definitely.
it's very worth it, obviously, internationally. And those tickets, they can be 10K, 15K. So
Okay, you're back.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Those
You said it's worth
seats
it.
can be very pricey. They can be
Mhm.
10K. I think Delta One is like 15K. So yeah, I don't see
Yeah,
me in the
yeah,
future spending 15K
that's
on a flight. But
that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. So speaking of that disaster, vacation, what's your worst travel experience that you've had? Like, what can you compare to this?
easy.
Okay.
Well, for me, it was, well, I can't speak on having like a bad flight because I've been
Mhm.
fortunate enough to not have a bad flight, but just
Okay.
getting sick at a destination. So I can't
Oh
say that
wow.
it had anything to do with the airlines, but
Mhm.
in Tulum, actually, got extremely sick for the entire
Mhm.
time, and that
Okay.
was miserable. So
Oh
I
yeah,
don't really
yeah,
have a
definitely.
lot of travel horror stories,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Well,
yeah,
fortunately,
definitely.
but
Yeah, well,
what
that's
about
good.
you?
That's good. So my worst travel story, it wasn't even an international flight. It was a flight from Chicago back home to the city I was living in. And you probably remember this. This was a few years ago during the Christmas holiday. I think one of the carriers had like canceled like all of their post
Yes,
Christmas flights for about a
yes,
week. And so
I remember that.
yeah, I remember too. I'm never gonna forget. I was literally, at my grandmother's house, at my family's house, and my mother told me to, hey, check the status of your flight. Your cousin's flight just got canceled. And I'm thinking, like, why would my flight get canceled? It's not snowing outside, it's not bad weather, everything's perfect. And so I just happened to just listen to my mom and let me listen to my mom and let me check. I knew something was wrong when I couldn't log on to check the status of my flight because so many people were trying to check the status of their
Mhm.
flight. And come to find out, like every flight was canceled for this one carrier. And they were trying to put me on a flight that was like a week away from my original
Ooh,
departure date. And I wasn't
yeah,
planning on
that's
staying in
crazy.
Chicago for another week with my family. I love them, but
Was it
I
snowing
wasn't
there
planning.
too?
It was cold. It was the winter, so I'm like,
Yeah,
"Nah, I
no.
want to be, yeah, I want to be in Chicago." Um, and so what I had to do is book another flight with a different carrier, and I ended up spending $1,000 to leave Chicago. And so I left the next day, but I
That's
spent the
rough.
$1,000, and it took that original carrier probably over a year to give me my money back. So
Oh, but they did
luck
refund you.
yeah, they gave me my money back. Luckily, I
Okay,
wasn't
nice.
starving for the money, but if I was
Yeah,
starving, shit, I would have been dead.
yeah, that would have sucked
Yeah.
because $1,000 is a lot for
Yeah.
a
A
flight.
flight.
I've never even paid $1,000 for an international. I haven't paid half of that
Yeah.
for a flight. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
rough.
Yeah, especially if it was a last minute flight. So you can imagine,
Hmm.
everybody trying to get flights once one carrier cancels all of theirs, it can just be a headache. But there's no way I
And
was gonna
there's
spend
not
another.
many.
Yeah.
One whole
No, go ahead.
carrier being out is rough
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's not that many mainstream carriers in the US. So
Right.
that puts a
Right.
huge damper on operations for sure. So
Right. Right. Definitely.
yeah.
So since that happened, like I've flown that carrier, but I only fly that carrier if I'm doing something like 30 minutes away, an hour
Hmm.
away, something I can drive in case they cancel on me.
Right.
But I'm not
Yeah.
going. If I need to go from East Coast to West Coast, no way. I'm gonna get on the best flight I can find.
Yeah.
Right. So
Once
yeah,
people
but
have one bad experience, it's
yeah,
very hard to want to rock with
yeah,
that same carrier again. So I
yeah,
get you.
definitely.
I get your feelings on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And you have some carriers out there where it's always drama on their airplanes. I saw one carrier, people were, you know, getting into, fights. One carrier today I saw in the news, some lady had like stripped down her clothes and I don't know what she was doing because I'm like, she must have been high on something. So it ain't no way I'm flying that carrier. So cool, cool. So, all right. So that's a good segue. Let's get into our next story because I know you're the queen of TikTok. So I'm pretty sure
I am.
you've heard of this one. So the White House is considering finalizing a proposal on a TikTok ban, which is approaching this Saturday. There's been uncertainty about the app's future after a law was put in place in January requiring the Chinese parent company of TikTok to divest due to national security concerns. And so
Mhm.
earlier this year, President Trump, I guess, signed an executive order to uh, extend TikTok's life in the US, but that extension is coming to an end this Saturday if they don't come to a deal to either sell to an American company or just divest altogether. So I know you're the queen of TikTok. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I was one of the people
Hmm.
who, when they banned it, I don't even remember what month. Was it January?
Yeah, I think it was January.
Okay. So when they banned it in January, I was one of the people who was like, this isn't coming back anytime soon. So I deleted it off my phone.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember you
And
telling me
then it
that.
came it came back the next day, I believe,
Mhm.
and or whenever it came back. And it came back for people who still had it on their phone, but all of the
Mhm.
people who deleted it, you couldn't go back into the app store and re-download it.
Mhm.
So I didn't
Right.
have it for like weeks on end.
Mhm.
Um, and then eventually I got tired of not having it. So I
Mhm.
had to download a VPN and do all this stuff
Oh
to kind of
shit.
like
Uh-oh, look at you.
meet
You
the
getting all you getting
system.
all technical. You getting all technical
I
the
know,
VPN.
right? I was proud
So
of myself, pat on my back.
okay, okay, that's what's up.
Um, so I know for someone like you who is not on social media and not addicted to the social media like I am,
Mhm.
um, I'm gonna be a little sad because I do run to TikTok when I want to like look at a restaurant or
Right.
research something or just see
Mhm.
what's new and happening in the world.
Mhm.
So,
Right, right.
in addition to TikTok, the same thing happened for CapCut.
Mhm.
So I had
Right.
also deleted CapCut because it takes a lot of storage on my phone. So I didn't have either. So I wasn't
Mhm.
able to do any editing, while I was sitting waiting for TikTok to come back. So there was just no content whatsoever. Content
Mhm.
wasn't being made, content wasn't being absorbed.
Right.
But it'll be interesting. I think they're gonna try to do everything in their power to keep it. Um, I think that they want to get certain information out there, and that's how you reach the younger generation nowadays with social media. So
Right.
I would be
Right.
shocked if it left for a long time come
Mhm.
Saturday. I would genuinely like be surprised by it. So
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned with CapCut is I think it's owned by the same parent company that owns TikTok,
mm,
which is I think ByteDance.
yep.
So you know, I have noticed over the past week or two, I've been seeing a ton of TikTok commercials,
Mm,
basically TikTok trying to sell themselves like, oh, small businesses need us. That's how, they do business.
that's true
So,
though.
it's
Yeah.
been really interesting.
Do you think they'll get bought out by an American company?
Yeah, so that's actually in the works. And one of the things I took note of, there's currently two offers out there. Uh, there's one offer for $20 billion for TikTok to sell to some American investors. And then there's another offer for $30 billion. So um, you can't make somebody accept the money they don't want to accept in business. So until they feel like
Yeah.
they're going to get a fair offer, they can hold out. They can say, "Hey, we want
Hmm.
45 billion," or
Yeah.
you know, they can create another TikTok shit. I mean, what's stopping them from creating another one? So
Right. Yeah,
they've already
that's
done
true.
done this. So it'll be interesting. So when you wake up Saturday morning and
I may
or
be crying.
Friday at midnight, and when you go to TikTok to look at some of your highlights or reels, whatever they call it on TikTok, I hope it's working. If you see that
That's
gray spinning
Instagram, but
wheel,
close.
yeah. If you see that gray spinning wheel, it's a wrap. Whatever you do, don't delete it off your phone though. Keep it on the phone
I
because
know.
you don't want to have to
I
wait,
know.
until Apple puts it back in the App Store.
I didn't realize that it was this Saturday too. That's right around the corner. So I guess we will know the fate of TikTok in just a
Soon,
few days. So
yeah, soon. So yeah, I think the people in the White House, Trump and some other advisors, they're supposed to be meeting today. So we're gonna see. So we'll see. I don't. They could sign another extension to push it out another 90 days,
yeah,
which I think
right.
they may just keep kicking the ball down the road
Hmm.
until, TikTok decides to possibly sell. So
I
we'll
do
see.
know one thing for sure. Like
Mhm.
you have your different social media, right? Like you
Mhm.
have creators on LinkedIn, you
Right.
have Instagram, you have Facebook,
Mhm.
TikTok. People are still on Snapchat. You have
Mhm.
creators on there. Um, I definitely think that you have like each platform is for something different, and I think that
Mhm.
TikTok is the most organic.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see, what people run to if
Mhm.
TikTok is gone for a couple of months, I'll be intrigued to see, what the
Right.
next
What's the next move?
famous
Because
platform is.
right.
Yeah.
Because you gotta imagine a lot of platforms, people have used them, they disappear, and then they slowly start
Hmm.
coming back. Like Snapchat. Like I thought Snapchat
Yeah.
was dead until somebody told me, "Oh,
Hmm.
Snapchat." I'm like, people use that. Tumblr. I thought it was dead,
Yes.
and people are still using that. And so
Pinterest.
Pinterest. I think another one is actually based out of China. It's called Red Note.
Yeah.
I've heard of that one, and so a
Yeah.
lot of people are saying, they don't even speak Chinese, but they're going to post some content on Red Note. So, that's pretty interesting. That is pretty
Yeah.
interesting. So, yeah. So, hey, another story. So, there was a father. I think he was out of Georgia. He was recently arrested for leaving his children at McDonald's, and so 24-year-old father who dropped off his kids who are 10, 6, and 1 years old at a local
Oh Lord.
McDonald's was arrested after witnesses saw him drop off his kids, in the evening. I think it was around 4 o'clock, and leaving. When the father returned 2 hours later, police were waiting for him. And when they asked him questions and they questioned him on why he left, he said he left to go to a nearby job interview. What are your thoughts on
Okay.
that?
How long was he gone for?
I think he was gone for about 2 hours from the story. The way I read the story, he dropped them off, he left, he came back, and he left again. So it sounds like he was nearby, like he said, but he was just, he dropped them off for 2 hours. And then once one person sees that and they don't feel comfortable with it, they're gonna snitch.
But that doesn't make sense to me though, too. There has to be more there because you're done with the interview or you're not. There is no leaving and coming back. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I
So
agree to that.
there's something missing there. And 10, 6, and 1 are those are not great ages to be leaving kids alone.
Definitely,
Um
definitely. Yeah.
17, 15,
That's a grown, that's
10.
an adult. That's an
Okay.
adult. You talking about leaving adults alone.
I agree. But it yeah, I hate that if he was, actually going to a job interview
Mhm.
and he didn't have anyone to help him, I hate that because it sounds like he's trying to do the right thing and, provide for his 3
Mhm.
kids. But at the same time, in no world, if something was to happen to those kids, would he not have been held reliable?
Yeah, he would have
Um,
definitely been arrested for that. So, and my mom left
yeah.
me at home at 10.
Hmm.
She didn't leave me at McDonald's. She didn't
That
leave me out in
and
public.
you didn't have a 1-year-old sibling to look
Yeah,
after
exactly,
either.
exactly.
So,
Right.
um, I definitely think that that was more socially acceptable um, back when you were 10. Not making
It's
it like you're
acceptable
old
now.
or anything.
It's acceptable now. I mean, if I had a 10-year-old,
No,
I w- why
it's
not?
not.
Why you
I
want to leave
don't
a
think that the
10-year-old
legal, no, I don't think
at,
that
at
the
home?
legal age, no,
At
no,
home. How
for
old were
several
you when you got
hours,
left at
no.
home?
Oh, I was probably 10 or younger, but I think that that was acceptable back then. For
It's
one, we have
acceptable
social
now.
media, kids have phones. I don't agree. Kids have phones. A lot can happen. A lot can happen when you are home to a
A lot can
10, 6,
happen
and
when
1
you
year
with your
old.
mom at home or your daddy at home. A lot can happen, but I wouldn't leave if I had a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. I wouldn't leave them all at home together. Now, if it was just one 10-year-old and he's the only child or whatever, or she's the only child, hey, when you get home from school at 3:30, stay here, do your homework until I come home in 2 hours. Yeah, I'm not leaving my kids with Grimace. Have you seen Grimace? That purple man ain't that man ain't responsible.
Yeah, I'm sure his thought process was they'll be occupied, playing, but
Right. Get
anything
kidnapped.
can happen. Yeah, they could get kidnapped. One
Right.
could push one of the other ones off the slide and they break their
Right.
leg and they looking for a parent to take them to the hospital.
Right.
And
Or
there's a lot of
bystanders to
stuff
take them
that
to the
could have.
hospital. Or
Yes,
Ronald
there's a
McDonald.
lot that
Well,
could.
Ronald McDonald, I think he has a hospital, so they can go to the Ronald McDonald Hospital. So
Yeah, I guess. But I just don't, and I have a different view on, kids being left at home just because of my background. But you
mhm,
see a lot of stuff happen that
mhm,
obviously that wasn't people's intentions, but
mhm,
that's unfortunately what happens when you leave kids alone because kids are
right,
not responsible enough to handle emergencies or if
right,
things go off path. So
mm,
I'm sure his intentions were not, for him to get arrested or, have the state called on him or whatever happened. I don't know. But
right,
it was a poor decision, unfortunately.
right. Yeah,
So
and
do we
speaking of,
know if they went with their mom or what
yes,
happened?
so when he got arrested, the mom did come pick up the children, and
Okay.
one of the things that the
That's
father
good.
said is that he didn't have a vehicle. But like you said,
Ah,
if you went on a job interview, you go on a job interview and you go home. You don't
right.
go on a job interview and then come back a few hours later for part two. Like,
Right.
that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
I've never been on an
So
interview like that.
it,
But
it sounds like more to the story. I mean, it sounds good, right? Because you'll have people feeling bad for you if you say, I was at a job interview, but were you at a job interview? So maybe he was.
right,
I don't know.
right, right. And so he has been receiving a lot of support online. Former NFL player Antonio Brown created a GoFundMe for him. And, Antonio Brown is well known on the internet. Um,
Hmm.
and he's been receiving
Yeah,
support of folks basically saying like he did no wrong. But everybody's going to comment on it, and the reason why they're going to comment is because those are not their kids. If those are your
exactly.
kids, you may have a different opinion, and I'm not sure what the GoFundMe is supposed to do: bail him out of jail or find his kids a daycare to go to or what. But
Yeah, I'm sure
you
that's
know,
that's what it is. But people love to react without having the full
knowing the
picture
facts.
and the full story too.
Hmm.
And that we know that that's what he's saying, right? I was at an interview. But the minute it comes out that he was
Hmm.
down the street buying something off the side of the corner, everybody's gonna want their money back from GoFundMe. You know what I mean?
Right,
Or he was at his girlfriend's house taking care of her two kids. Like, and I'm
right,
not saying that's what he was doing, but
right, right.
people love to hear one side of the story, act off of that, and then get annoyed once they've been bamboozled. So
Right, right. Yeah. I
I
mean,
hope that he was doing the right thing, but
well, I need to
we'll
go
see.
see how much money he raised off that GoFundMe because if he's raising a lot of money, I may have to
Probably a
leave you
lot.
at home. If I may have to leave you at home and leave you at McDonald's and then raise some money off you, you know.
Hey, I'm not mad at it, but yeah, I want to see. I'll have to look that one up because I'm curious to see how much he raised as
Mhm.
well, and see what the outcome is. Because the mom will
Yeah.
say, I feel like the mom will, bust him out if he was doing something inappropriate.
Yeah, that depends on it. If I don't know what their custody arrangement is. I don't know what their relationship is, but if she has, other motives, she may bust him out, or she may just, take his side. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be
Yeah,
more to the story, and I'm not sure what city he was from. I think he was definitely in Georgia, and he may be from a small town because you understand small towns and big cities they have different rules.
right.
Um,
That's true.
if you're from a town with 20,000 people, everybody knows everybody. So
Hmm.
it's not like people are strangers. But, you know, if you left your kids at the downtown, midtown McDonald's in New York, yeah, that's not a good look. That is not a
Yeah.
good look.
No, totally agree. But uh, I mean, poor kids. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Obviously they were safe and nothing happened to them, so that's the most important thing. So I hope in the future, if he's going to a job interview, he has someone he can hire a nanny with the
Mhm.
GoFundMe money, or make sure that they're protected and they're safe because they're the most important. So
Right. Yeah. Especially the 1 year old. I don't have a 1 year old in my life, but, I'm assuming 1 year
yeah,
olds, they're still drinking out of bottles, right?
they are still wearing a
Okay.
diaper, and a 10-year-old shouldn't be responsible for changing a
No,
diaper and feeding.
no.
They aren't the parent. They, didn't ask to do that.
Mhm.
So another way to look at it too, the 10-year-old shouldn't be parentified at that age. So
Yeah, but I guarantee you that 10-year-old is probably changing Pampers at home
oh yeah, for
when the
sure.
parents are not around. Because one of the things I notice is people who or adults who may have been like the oldest of 3 or 4 or 5. they become a parent because they have to babysit, they
Hmm.
have to support and monitor and pretty much help raise their siblings. And so
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yes.
So
Which I think to an extent, like nothing's wrong with being a responsible older kid,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
But being left at a McDonald's with a 1 year old at 10, I'm
mhm.
sorry, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
totally unacceptable.
Yeah, this reminds me of that movie from I think from the '90s called Baby's Kids. Have you seen it?
Yes, of course I have.
Right. Haven't
Well,
haven't
hopefully they
seen it.
weren't acting like baby's kids, but
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure they probably well behaved. Hopefully they're well
yeah.
behaved, but I haven't seen that movie in a long time. But I do know they were like there was a baby with a pamper, and then the kids
Hmm.
were like look other kids were slightly older, and they were like running around doing some of the craziest things. So I may have to watch
Yes.
that movie this weekend. So
I
it's
think
been
they
a
had
very
it
long
on
time.
Netflix. They had it
Oh,
on
okay,
Netflix for a minute. I don't know if they
okay.
still do, but
Well, I'm gonna have to take a look at it. I just watched another movie on Netflix. I think 2 nights ago. I think it was called Electric State. It was about
never
some
heard of it.
robots. Yeah, it's pretty new. It was trending. I think it was like top 10 in the US. It was trending.
Okay.
So you may want to definitely take it out, take a check it out. So
Will do.
so check this out. So as you know, the cost of living is always rising. In the U.S., especially if you live in a major city. So, according to new data from Go Banking Rate, achieving the American dream and enjoying a comfortable lifestyle requires a minimum of $102,000 annually across the largest 50 U.S. cities. This number was calculated by analyzing factors such as grocery cost, child care costs, like we just talked about, and also housing
Hmm.
expenses. And so some of the
Yes.
key findings from this report was that Washington, D.C. had the highest cost of living or highest cost of the American dream in the United
Hmm.
States. And for you to live in a D.C. metro area and have an American dream where you live comfortably, you have to earn at least $190,000 a year.
Crazy. Yeah.
That is insane. So, we've been talking about, or not only you and I, but you've been seeing in the media a lot about folks saying, oh, the cost of eggs is going up, the cost of rent is going up,
Yeah.
houses are going up. Getting my house fixed is constantly costing more. Like,
Yeah.
where do you see this going with, the average person that's living in America, not even just the top city, but just living in a city, having to earn over $100,000 for the household?
I guess I have my own opinions on that because that number seems accurate, but I think
Mm,
too, well, I wonder too, I guess, if that's factoring in the average American having some sort of debt as well because
mhm,
I think around that mark you are definitely living comfortably, and I think that really like 80K up until that 100,000, you can definitely live comfortably if you're not paying a card note, if you don't have a bunch of credit card debt,
mhm,
um, you're paying your student loans. So I think there's some factors in there. Obviously, you aren't living above your means. You don't have $4,000 rent or
mhm,
$4,000 mortgage or whatever,
mhm.
and that's going to look different for everybody.
Right, because they
Um,
did say the American dream. So your American dream may not
mhm.
be my American dream.
Right,
My American dream may
exactly.
be a G wagon. Your American dream may be something that you can afford.
A
So,
Toyota, yes.
so
But I think
everybody's
that plays
American
a
dream is different.
yes, that plays a big role. And I was just talking to my sister um, because I live in my second high rise and I just moved in and I am wondering to myself, why am I living in a high rise?
Mhm,
I don't feel like I need to live in a high rise. And I think that my thought process is just a little bit different now. I
mhm.
recently paid off my car, which is,
Okay,
I'm feeling, I'm feeling great about that. But I'm
you
also
ready to go
thinking
to
to
Japan right
myself,
now?
I am, but I'm thinking to myself, why am I paying 2,000 plus dollars on rent? Like,
Mhm,
I don't use any of the amenities. Like, I use the gym sometimes, but
mhm.
I may ask concierge a question, but do I need to live in a high rise? Not
Right,
really.
right.
So I think we have different adjustments to what the American dream is too. Like to me now, the American dream would just be to do what I want when I want.
Right.
Be able to take time off, travel as much as I want to. Maybe I don't want to travel. Maybe I want to take a week off and kick my feet up.
Right.
But I feel like I live comfortably, and I would live more comfortably if I didn't live in a high rise
Hmm.
and I didn't feel like I needed to, have certain things. So
Hmm.
I think that we have to start being realistic and asking ourselves, are we living above our means? Are we putting money towards stuff that we don't need to? Do I need to get my nails done every 2 weeks? No, I really don't.
Hmm.
Do I need to
Yeah.
spend $300 on getting my hair done every month?
Mhm.
No, I really don't. So, um, those things are just changing for me. So, while I think that things are going up, rent prices are ridiculous, grocery
Yeah,
prices are
they're not going down.
ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think so either. But I think that we have to start having more realistic conversations on where our dollars are going to go.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like you said, to me, living the American dream is not, having the most expensive, home or the most expensive
Hmm.
car. It's sort of like being comfortable and being able to do what I want. And
Yes.
personally, I don't want to do a lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big
Right.
spender. I mean, if I
Yeah.
travel, I'll probably take 2 or 3 international trips a year. If that,
Hmm.
most of my trips will probably be in state or going home or going to some,
Yeah.
foodie event in a different city or state. But I mean, it goes back into what we talked about last week of so many millennials and Gen Zers being supported by their family. Like a lot of
Hmm.
people do want to live above what they earn.
Yep.
A lot of people they see stuff on TikTok or Instagram, and they think that
Hmm.
that lifestyle is for you or for me.
Yes.
It's not for you
Hmm.
because once you driving a more expensive car, you got to think about like your gas is going to cost more, your tires are going to cost more, your oil change is going to cost
Insurance.
more, your insurance is going to cost more. And so,
Yeah.
and I was telling you a few weeks ago, I went to look at some cars, I think 2 weeks ago, and cars ain't cheap and
No.
insurance ain't cheap. So if
Yeah.
oh, I can afford this car, it's only $100 more a month. Call your
Yep.
insurance company and tell them you got a new car. They're gonna say, oh, your
Right.
insurance is gonna be $200 more. And next thing you
Yep.
know, $300-400 is coming out of your pocket. And then your gas tank may be smaller, and then the tires may cost more, the oil change, like it's like a domino
Yep.
effect. It's snowballing up, and the cost is just like you said, they're forever
Hmm.
increasing. So
And these cars are not, I don't think they're
reliable.
made the same.
They
So
not.
I
Nothing's
have
made
a
the same.
exactly. I have a pre-COVID car. I will
Right.
ride that car until it blows up. Like I
Right.
do not
Right.
even want to think about having another car now. Like I love my car. I'm good where I'm at. There may be some dings on it, some people that hit my door, but
Right.
that's okay. I'm riding with it
Keep
till the
driving it.
wheels fall off.
Yep, keep driving it. Like I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. And it's
No.
funny because this reminds me of a story of a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it on the news or whatever. It was like a grocery store. Instead of selling a dozen eggs or half dozen eggs, they were selling like 2 eggs in a plastic Ziploc bag because the eggs
For
go.
how much?
I don't know
A
how much
dollar?
it was charging. I don't know, but because the eggs are becoming so expensive, and some of these birds got diseases or whatever,
Yes.
they're like rationing eggs. They're like selling eggs $1 or whatever for one or two.
Goodness.
And so it's pretty interesting. And one of my friends told me a few weeks ago, which I didn't know, the dollar store or some discount stores apparently
Hmm.
sells groceries. And I
The
didn't know
Dollar
that.
Tree and
I didn't
Family
know that.
Dollar.
And they were telling me they ate some eggs from this place and it didn't taste like eggs.
Well,
Well, it probably ain't no eggs. So
it's probably some. I don't even know who else lays eggs besides chickens.
shit, I don't know. Who could it be? Probably some geese from the park.
Right, some
Some
dinosaurs that
yeah,
came back
some
to life.
local neighborhood geese. They done scooped up the eggs and put them in a grocery store. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
this is pretty interesting. Let me give you some other data points from this study. So in Seattle, to live the American dream, it was 150,000. In
Yep.
Chicago, it was 130,000. And in Austin, it was 120,000. And Austin had the highest in the entire state of Texas. And that includes, of course, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and the other smaller cities.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's just it's crazy because when you think about, I think what next year the World Cup is going to be in the U.S. and so cities like the East Coast, like New York, Boston, and D.C., some of the Texas cities, some of the cities in California, they're going to host those events,
Mhm.
and then once those international folks come to the U.S. and they see it for the first or second time, whatever, how many times they've seen America, they may want to move here, and so that's just going to push the cost of living up even higher
Mhm.
because America is going to be on display. And it reminds me of what folks were telling me about Atlanta pre-Olympics and Atlanta post-Olympics. Pre-Olympics,
Mhm.
it was still like a country town. And then afterwards, it exploded. Everybody wanted to
Mhm.
move to Atlanta and experience, hot Atlanta, as they say.
Mhm. But I think that's just a part of, while I'm not negating the fact that people have definitely moved around to cities like Atlanta
Mhm.
and, Dallas, Houston. Um, I think people have been moving since the beginning of time. I don't think that's
Yeah.
anything new. People move and, they try new places. But I think it's expensive everywhere. Like, we've seen some of the most affordable cities become expensive, and we've seen cities that are already expensive become even more expensive. So
Right.
I think that that's just unfortunately where our economy is.
Right.
But so I actually lived outside of Seattle when I had my first apartment.
Hmm.
I lived in Tacoma, which is about 30 minutes from Seattle,
Hmm.
and I was like 24, I think,
Hmm.
maybe 25. And I would get groceries for the week. How much do you think my groceries would cost me for the week? This is like
What?
making breakfast, lunch, dinner.
What?
I know you don't
$50?
cook. No, not even 50, like
Oh.
40, like
Oh
30,
wow.
$40 for like a
Hmm.
week's worth of me eating.
Okay.
Now
Cool.
I spend, like, if I get two or three proteins, definitely like in the 80 to 100 range. And
Oh
that's me
wow.
being cautious of what I'm buying. So that's just not even a decade difference. That's a big jump. Like, obviously,
Hmm.
our parents have seen a jump in, prices, but we have really seen the prices of groceries increase to an astronomical level in a very short amount of time. And I think that's the problem that people
Definitely, especially since COVID, like 2020 hit
have.
and everything became expensive. And you just mentioned
Hmm.
like, you were able to get groceries for about $40. So, you can still
Yeah.
go down to your local neighborhood park and get you some of those geese eggs. And they
No,
got
thank
meat
you.
too. So if you want some geese wings, geese breasts, and geese thighs, you can just pull the feathers off and save some
I
money.
only eat pasture raised eggs. I don't even play
Okay.
like that. I love
What,
eggs.
what the geese? They organic. They don't take hormones. They ain't on no
I don't
steroids. They
care.
they 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 what you call it? They graze the land naturally. They not stressed out. They got unlimited food. People
I'm a
feed them
pass.
bread.
But you let me know
Yes,
how it
but
tastes when you have some.
all right, cool. I got to find a park so I can get me some geese. So, but yeah, like you said, it's becoming ever uh, increasingly expensive. And it's funny because I was recently
Yeah.
talking to someone from Spain about a year ago, and I was asking them about home ownership. And one of the things they told me, like, it's rare in certain cities in Spain for people to own their homes because of the cost of
Okay.
living is so expensive. And so,
Oh. Okay.
if your grandparents bought a house in the 1950s or 60s, they passed it down to your parents, and your parents passed it down to you. And what the only thing you need to do is maintain and pay property
Right.
taxes. You can probably
Hmm.
afford it. But if you want to buy something just net new, it may be unreachable. I've been looking at properties for the past few weeks, and I mean, with the interest rates, you may see a property and be like, "Oh, that property only costs
Right.
X hundreds of thousands of dollars." But once you look at the monthly payment, you like, that's a lot of
Right.
money because interest
4 or
rates,
5. Yeah.
yeah, are
Yeah.
just so
4 is
high.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen some properties where the ask price is, it's reachable, but the
Hmm.
monthly the mortgage is like insane. I mean, 7,000, 6,000. It's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm not spending that.
And it's
That's
crazy
way
to
too much.
think if you would have bought that 5 years ago or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
6, 7 years ago, the fact that you would probably only be paying 15 to, no more than 3,000 also puts it into perspective because it's like, man,
Mhm.
I could have
Yeah.
been getting a house for dirt cheap and,
Yeah,
now I'm in
definitely.
this scenario, but
Definitely. Definitely. And that's why I've been looking at homes with that are on a larger plot of land in the city, because then
mhm,
you can take the garage, you can convert it into an
mhm,
apartment. If it's like a duplex, you can rent out one portion and live in the other portion. But any way to save money on the mortgage and rent it out, or um, lease it out to a studio or movie production company if it's designed in a very artistic way, you know, do that. But the cost of living is extremely high, and considering
yeah,
you just talked about you know recently moving, so you've been on the market for looking at apartments, so there's
yeah,
apartments out there in the city that cost 6,000 for one bedroom, 5,000, 4,000 for one bedroom.
yeah,
And what are they going to do after your lease ends, after 12 months? They're going to increase the rent.
right,
They're not going to go down.
yep,
I've never heard of rent decreasing. So
yeah, yep, and they're
it's
not
something to
worth
think
it.
about.
Unfortunately, these places are not worth it. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When you watch them build a lot of these places, especially mid rises and apartments,
mhm,
it's basically plywood and what you call it, cardboard from Home Depot and
yep,
popsicle sticks, and you watch them being built, and you like, oh, that's what I'm paying for. And
it's
then you
mold
move
in the
in, yeah,
wall,
yeah, yeah,
asbestos.
and you can smell it. You can smell it, mildew, mold, and
Mhm.
you can hear your neighbors clapping their
Yep.
hands. I mean, you can hear your neighbors flushing
Whispering.
the toilet. Listen, I
Yep.
lived in an apartment in Atlanta. It was a commercial property, and they converted it from commercial to residential, and it was
Mhm.
mid rise. And you will think that, oh, it's an older building, it's the bones are brick. This
Yeah,
place was paper thin.
I believe it.
You
Yeah.
say you can hear your neighbors whisper. Like, luckily my bedroom was like facing like outside like
Mhm.
outside their unit, because you could hear everything. Not only could you
Yeah.
hear, one day, I didn't know my neighbor at the time, but one day I could tell they sprayed some cologne. I smelled it. I smelled it. I'm not
Probably
lying. I smelled it.
moving through the walls.
I smelled it. It smelled like they sprayed me with cologne. I'm like,
Yeah, that would.
that's it was thin.
Yeah.
I
No,
stayed
I
there, I
believe
think
it.
I stayed there, I think a year, and they got tired of me complaining, so they let me out of my
Yeah.
lease, because they were like, "Yeah, man, you got to get out of here. You complain too much." I every
I'm ready
time,
to move
yeah,
all the
yeah, every time,
time
yeah,
cuz
every
yeah.
time something come up, taking pictures, sending emails, harassing, not
Mhm.
harassing, but annoying the hell out of these folks. And so when it was time for me to leave, I started emailing like the VP who sat over like the whole region, and they let me out. Shit,
Hey, you paying
I
a
should have,
lot of money.
yeah,
They got to get it
yeah,
right.
right. Should have sued them for spraying me with cologne. So yeah. So hey, the last story. I don't know if you heard or you seen, but two astronauts recently opened up about being stuck in space for 9 months on the International Space Station. The two
Yes.
were only scheduled to be at the International Space Station for 8 days, and they ended up staying for 9 months.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No, because I wouldn't be going up there. I applaud them for being astronauts and
Right,
doing what their job
right,
required. But no, you couldn't pay me to go to the moon unless something was going on with Earth. Then I would
right.
go willingly. But no, absolutely not. And they're saying that Gail, Oprah's friend Gail, and somebody else, I forgot who it
Mhm.
is, they're supposed to be going up there next. And I'm like,
Well,
Gail, you ain't see these people stuck up there?
well, send Gail,
No.
to the International Space Station. Send everybody up there. Send everybody.
No, I'm honestly happy because I have followed their story for a while, and it just came to a point where I thought they weren't coming back. So I am
Hmm.
very happy to hear that, they made it back safely. I know that has to be a lot on their body. Were they even able to walk when they
Yeah, so
got back?
they have since there's no gravity, they have
Mhm.
treadmills and there's like elastic
Okay.
cables that attach to
Mhm.
their suits or their pants to create
Okay.
artificial gravity by pulling them down. Because if
Okay.
not, muscle atrophy will kick in
Right.
immediately. I think muscle atrophy kicks in with even on Earth within a day or two. If you don't
Yeah.
use these muscles, they started like shrinking. So
Right.
I can
Yeah.
only imagine how much muscle mass they lost. And so
Mhm.
yeah. So if you went on an 8-day mission to Mars, or I'm sorry, not Mars, but the International Space Station, it's some like you said, something was happening on Earth and you had to leave for 8 days or even
Uh-huh.
9 months. What would you take with you?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm definitely taking my AirPods because I don't
Okay.
want to hear. I don't want to hear nobody snoring. I don't want nobody talking to me more than they need to be talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm definitely taking these AirPods.
Hmm.
And then of course I have to take, women. We have to have, certain hygiene stuff.
Hmm.
And then what else would I take? My phone. Would it work though?
Okay.
Probably not. There's probably no
Yeah.
Wi-Fi in
They
space.
probably have some form of communication, but it's not going to be like high speed internet. They got something. I know they got something. They have
Yeah.
to have something.
Honestly, I don't really care. Like, when I will travel, because you're like, oh, did I forget anything? And I'm
Hmm.
always like, if I have my phone, I have my AirPods, I have my cards. Those are my three.
Hmm.
Obviously, my passport if I need it. But if I
Yeah.
have those three things, I'm like, I could buy something else that
So,
I don't have. So I don't
mhm,
think besides my AirPods, phone. I don't really think
mhm.
feminine hygiene products. I don't think there would be anything
Mhm.
else.
So you think you can survive eating those? I think they call them
MR, well, not MREs, but
dry packed goods or those packed goods.
yeah.
Okay.
What else you gonna eat? A bag of Cheetos?
I'm pretty sure they sneak some. Not I'm gonna say sneak. I'm pretty sure they have like emergency bag of Cheetos or Twizzlers or
Yeah,
Payday where they can eat, but probably not a
I'm
lot,
sure they
due to
have that in a.
space.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe they have that in addition to, but obviously,
Mhm.
you have to have stuff that's gonna sustain your body, fiber, protein. You
Right.
know what I mean. So I think you
Yeah.
would just get used to eating. I'm gonna
Some
call it
nasty
MREs.
food.
I know they're not MREs, but
Yeah.
yeah, some
Yeah. Definitely.
prepackaged slop.
Right, right. Yeah, and I feel you. I don't need any, earbuds or AirPods. Just give me my MacBook, and some lip balm. Like I need some lip balm. So I'm like
Oh,
addicted to
good.
this lip
Yeah,
balm.
good
So
call.
because you can't
Oh,
be
and
in
dry
space with
lips.
dry lips.
Yeah,
I
that's
probably
true.
commit. I
I
probably,
agree.
yeah. I wouldn't be able to survive with no dry lips in space. So
Yeah, no, you make a
'cause-
good point.
yeah, because when
And
my lips are
lotion.
dry, oh yeah, yeah. When my lips are dry, I can't even think straight. Like I'm like
Yeah, that's true.
you're going
I
start going
agree.
crazy. So that's pretty interesting.
I would
So
also
one
have
of
to
the
take
ask
my contacts too. I
oh yeah, some
cannot
contact solution.
not have my contacts or, glasses, something.
So when one of the astronauts was asked about what was one food, they were craving upon a return, one of the astronauts, the female, I can't remember her name, she said a grilled cheese sandwich. So after you return to the US after 9 months, what would be your go-to meal that you have to eat?
My first thought goes to a smash burger, which is so basic, but there's nothing like a good burger.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree.
Especially a good smash burger.
Uh, uh, I've
Um,
seen smash burgers, but I've never had a smash burger, but I've seen their locations.
okay. Well, not like smash burger, the restaurant, just
Oh,
a
just a type.
smash burger.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay.
Yes. Throw some fries in. I don't need soda. I don't drink soda or any of
No
that. But I
milkshake.
probably no. But throw a lemon drop on the side. Some with some
Okay.
alcohol.
Okay.
Margaritas, because I'm gonna need a drink when I get
Right,
back.
right.
What you
Yeah.
would say a smash burger too, or something else?
Oh no, I've never even had a smash burger.
Oh, okay.
You know me. Give me some barbecue
Oh
or
gosh, yes, I should have known.
give me some barbecue or some fried chicken,
Okay,
and
that's
that's
fair.
all I
That's
need.
fair.
Yeah, some fried. I don't even know which one I'll choose. I'll probably choose the fried chicken because
I
if I
was
get
gonna say you would
yeah
choose chicken.
Because if I get the fried chicken, I can get the fries on the side, and I can eat, both at the same time. The
Okay.
barbecue, I'm not sure how that
That's your
barbecue
second meal.
yeah, I'm not sure how that barbecue will react to my body after 9 months of eating.
The chicken wouldn't react well either. What do you mean?
But
Fried
it's
food
gonna
would be
it's gonna
probably
it's gonna
worse.
react good in my mouth, but once it make it to like my stomach, it may be
That's
trying
gonna
to
be
escape
worse.
immediately afterwards. So
Agreed.
yeah, that'll be interesting. But she ate a grilled cheese sandwich, so I don't think
Mhm.
that's not too heavy. So you know, maybe I'll just eat
Cheese. I don't know.
instead of eating 4 wings and fries, I'll probably just do 2 wings and fries, and
It
hopefully
don't
my body
matter.
can
You might as well have four.
my body can acclimate to going from, I think, what, MREs to fried
Hmm.
food. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm gonna need
and I
something
know,
sweet too.
yeah. Well, you got you said a lemon drop. What's that? Lemon drop martini,
But I'm gonna need like a dessert. Like, I
chocolate
don't
cake.
know, some bread pudding or something.
No,
Yeah.
some banana pudding, right? Yeah, you like banana pudding, but yeah, that was it. So yeah, there's some pretty good stories for this episode. I know you sent me a story, but I'm like, hey, that's kind of messy. But
We'll
so
keep the
what do
mess
you
to a minimum.
right, right. So what do you have planned for the rest of the week? I know you, like you mentioned, you're still unpacking and getting situated. What else
Hmm.
are you up to this week?
Not a lot. Of course, I'm gonna work out. I am actually planning on. I've been trying to switch up my workouts. I
Okay.
spin
Mhm.
quite often, so I've been doing a step class more often, and I'm gonna do this bounce class. I
Mhm.
got a bike, so
A
I
real
want to do
bike
some
or a
more.
stationary bike?
A real bike.
Okay. You got a
I'm
helmet?
not wearing no helmet.
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm too good of a bike rider to, need a
All
helmet.
right.
No, I'm
Just make sure you in a
kidding.
you in a park. Don't be riding around the
Yes.
city
No, no,
without a
no, no.
helmet.
It's no, it's gonna be the park.
And,
But
don't
so I
try to
plan.
ride your bike and hit the geese and take their eggs. So just stay on the path.
I'm gonna leave that up to you. But I plan on hopefully going to the park this weekend, riding bikes.
Okay.
I just kind of want to stay very active this weekend since I was sick last week and I didn't work out for a minute. So that's my plan. Eat good. I have a birthday coming up, so I need to make
Okay. Right.
sure
Right.
that
Did you come up with the plans yet?
I look decent.
Did you come up with any
I
plans?
have I have
Okay.
concepts
Great.
of a plan.
Okay, cool. Okay, run them by your friends and see what they say.
Concepts of a plan.
All right.
But
Okay.
yeah, what's your plans for this weekend?
It's still March Madness, so I'm gonna
I knew it was
watch
gonna
some
be
college.
sports related. I knew.
Yeah,
I
I'm
already
still I'm
knew.
still watching college basketball. I think the Final Four starts Friday, so I'm gonna watch that game after work. Uh, Saturday, I don't know what I'm gonna do Saturday. Probably go visit some open houses. Um,
Nice. Okay.
Probably do that. But
Are
just
you trying to buy
relax.
property this year?
Yeah, I mean,
Did you
that's the
find something?
goal. That's the goal if I find something. But like I mentioned earlier, like stuff is expensive. Like
Yeah.
everything is expensive. So,
Yes.
and then one of the neighborhoods I've been looking at is a historic neighborhood. So you can't make modifications to the home. So, I want
I
to
don't
add,
like that.
yeah, I want to add another story. I want 2 stories. I want to add a unit above my garage, like I mentioned. In some of these historic neighborhoods, you have to submit paperwork, you have to come up with all type of stuff, you got to hire a lawyer. It's not easy to
Yeah.
make modifications.
If I'm gonna pay for something, then I want to be able to do whatever. If I'm gonna own it too, I want to do whatever I want to do. If I want to put a rooftop and have some people out there dancing on it, then that is my
Yeah,
prerogative. So
you do that in a historic neighborhood, they're gonna be
kicking you out.
police. Yeah, they're gonna kick you out. They're gonna make it hell. They're gonna make it hell. They're gonna knock on your door and say, hey, this community has been here since the 1920s.
Yeah.
We don't do these things. So, but
But
yeah,
point
so
being that you should be able to, add a layer to your house if that's
mhm.
what you want to do. Are these properties HOA or
So I try to
a
stay
part of
away
the
from the
HOA?
HOA. I try to stay away from
Okay.
that because that's just another bill. And
Yeah.
I've seen people with HOAs go from $200-300 HOA to
Hmm.
$300-400 HOA. People knocking on your door saying your garbage can should be blue and your garbage can is black. So I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with HOA at all. unless I'm in
But is it
like an
also
exclusive gated community.
okay? So I was gonna say, is it also nice? Because I've been in neighborhoods where you pass that one house and
Mhm,
it's looking crazy.
mhm,
Grass is up to your forehead.
mhm.
Is there some instances where HOA is appropriate and can be an added benefit?
Yeah, I mean, it's pros and it's cons. The pros is that the neighborhood will never, fall into disarray because people are going to take care of it,
Right.
and the association is going to
Hmm.
look out for it. But at the same time, those folks are going to be in your business.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
when you do something that's not HOA, if it's not an established neighborhood, if it's in a neighborhood where people are constantly moving in and moving out, you may not have those relationships with your neighbors. People may not care
Yeah.
how their property looks. People may be playing music at night. They may be uh, 20 people living in a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you know how they
Yeah.
do it in Texas. So yeah, I'm not trying to,
Illegal
it's
activities.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
balancing
You
act.
just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but great. So, yeah, that was a great episode. Thanks for joining episode 2 of Sigh of Relief. We look forward to joining you guys again this Sunday. So, please tune in and like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.